and welcome to Broken Entertainment. So today I kind of wanted to cover something a little more positive than what's been in the news lately. And with that, I'm going to talk about Brandon Sanderson. Now, I'm a huge fan of his. He absolutely rescued me from my tendency to believe that modern fantasy wasn't my thing. And, I loved fantasy. I always enjoyed it, but I could never get into anything newer. Every time I tried to read it, I just couldn't get through it. It just wasn't interesting. And I started to watch Brandon Sanderson's lecture videos on YouTube where he gives lectures because he does classes at universities. And he actually puts those online for free. And I was struck by that. I was like, wow, this guy does not need to put these up for free. He could charge easily. Plenty of people do. But he puts them up for free. And I'm like, that's really interesting. And then I watched him in an interview with Shad M. Brooks over at Shadiversity, and he said some really interesting things, especially as I was at the time deciding between do I want to self-publish, do I want to traditionally publish. And he comes on and he starts talking about what he would do, because Shad M. Brooks is self-published. And he asked Brandon Sanderson, what if you were getting into the industry now, what would you do? And he said, I'd self-publish. Not only do you have more control, but essentially it's probably the future of publishing. And he kind of hinted at, traditional publishing is not going to look the same in the future as it does now. And Sanderson has taken a lot of control over his publishing process. He has people, he has staff that help put things together, that get things in kind of the direction that he wants, rather than relying entirely on Tor to do everything. And it really struck me when he said that, and I'm like, man, this guy has a point. But more than that, he has done several interviews with YouTubers. Not just Shadiversity, but other author and booktubers as well. And he doesn't have to do that. He's a busy guy. He's writing, right now, if you look at this webpage, let's see, he's doing draft 1.0 of a novella. He is working on the final draft of a novella. He is writing Mistborn 7, draft 1, or draft 0, depending on how you look at it, and he just finished Skyward 3 final draft. This guy's a busy dude. But he takes the time to interact with fans. He takes the time to go on other people's YouTube channels and to give them interviews when he really doesn't have to. And what finally got me to read his books was that he was taking the time to interact with fans on basically every level. And I caught some of his live streams. He was doing these live streams because he was signing a whole bunch of books for his Kickstarter campaign. And he was doing live streams as a way to keep himself signing books and entertained instead of just, because imagine signing that many books. And they weren't complicated. He didn't distance himself from his audience. He had one person there with a laptop who was running the live stream, and they just answered questions for an hour, sometimes close to 2. No pretense, no, we're only going to take super chats or whatever. In fact, I don't even remember there being super chats. I think they had that shut off. And he was so open and so down to earth, and I'm like, wow, here's a creator in this time who is just basically just chilling with fans for an hour. And that got me, because that's the kind of thing that gets me, is creators respecting their fans. That's why I watched Godzilla vs. Kong. That's why I watched the Snyder Cut. both movies that I had zero interest in when the news about them first broke. I was like, okay, whatever. But when you show respect and you interact with them and you take the time to be a decent person to your fans, that shows me that you deserve to at least get a shot. And if I don't like what you write or what you produce or whatever, fine. I don't have to like everything. But you at least deserve a shot. So I said, you know what? I can't get into any other fantasy right now. I might as well try his. And I loved it. I absolutely fell in love with the Stormlight Archive. I'm going through the Mistborn series now. And it's taught me a great deal about writing and helped me really improve my craft. And I want to show how he interacts with things, and I want to compare him to somebody that we've talked about a couple times on this channel. George R.R. Martin. George R.R. Martin is the anti-Sanderson for me. Brandon Sanderson is optimistic. His worlds and his characters can start in very dark places, but they generally move towards the light. There's a lot of hope. George R.R. Martin, I think we all know his books are a little not that at all. And that's fine. Not everybody's got to write the way that you like, right? And my beef with George R.R. Martin is not his writing. It's the way he responds to his fans, and large part that he doesn't. And, initially I did a video just kind of questioning, does this guy really care? Because it's been 10 going on 11 years now since his last book. He doesn't really seem to respond to people very much. And I only did that after seeing a bunch of people who were his fans getting pissed and upset because they're like, where the heck is this book? Did you sell me down a river and you're not going to finish this after I've devoted all this time and resources into buying your books, watching the TV show that ended like crap? So I just kind of asked the question, and the video exploded. I did not expect... And most of the people who responded were George's fans. And I did another video on it, and to the same result. And his fans are very, very passionate people. I see that. And these people really want the next book despite the show or because of the show. And despite the 11-year wait. And despite the way he reacts to them. Calling people assholes on the internet because they want to know, where's the book, George? Fans are very passionate people. Only good writing inspires that kind of passion. So I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about George. So I'm going to talk about him today. And I'm not doing this as a hit piece, because this is mostly about Brandon Sanderson, but I want him here as a kind of compare and contrast situation. Because they're two of the biggest names in the genre right now. And this is Brandon Sanderson's website. If you don't want to just look at his website, you can also look on YouTube where, like I said, he has done interviews with people, he has done lectures, and I'll show you, he does a video where he does a weekly update, and I kind of expected it to be fluff when it started, but it's really not. He actually tells you what he's doing, and some of what his process is, and what's going on. And it's that kind of openness that really is what seems to be lacking with George R.R. Martin. He has this passionate fan base, these fiery people that really just want the next book, George. They don't know what's going on. They will write paragraphs in the comment section saying, I love these books. I really wanted the next book, but now I don't know what's going on. Is this guy going to finish the book? Does he care anymore? Has he just lost the interest? Has the show destroyed his creative process, etc., etc.? It's because he doesn't talk to anybody. And initially, I said, not every author not every creator has to respond to things in the same way. And that is true to an extent. But I think you owe your fans a little bit of openness. Not a lot. You don't have to tell them everything you're doing. You don't have to say, hey, sorry, I didn't write much today because I was having a bad time, so I went out and, went down to the coffee shop and spent some time just chilling or whatever, Or I spent, 3 hours playing, Crusader Kings 2 or whatever. You don't have to do that, but you got to talk to people a little bit, especially when they're hooked on a series. And in this light, I'm going to try to do the same thing. Even though you guys aren't hooked on my series, I'm not published yet, etc. I want to talk about my publishing process, where I sit, what I'm expecting to do in the next year or so, and keep people kind of updated, because I've been talking about getting published for a while, and I want to show where I am in that process. But also because I'm inspired by the way Brandon Sanderson interacts with his fans. And he's not the only example of this. Okay, I remember back in the day, Anne McCaffrey used to talk to her fans. There's a lot of authors that interact with their fans. Stephen King has written books about his process. And, famously, he used to, when he did his first book, he went to bookstores and tried to sell it out of the back of his truck, right? You don't have that with George R. R. Martin. You don't have his open interaction of yeah, this is where, hey guys, and it wouldn't take much, right? He could say, look, guys, I'm sorry this book is so late. I've been working very hard. I've got a lot going on, and right now it's just difficult to get the words on the page. No excuse, but that's where I am. I am about 70% done, or whatever. That kind of response would calm so many people down. But you don't get it. But here's Brandon Sanderson. This is his webpage. You have progress bars that tell you exactly where he is in the process. Wax and Wayne Book 4, Mistborn number 7, 15% on the first draft. Skyward 3, done. Sunreach Skyward Novella 1, final draft, 80%. Redawn Skyward Novella number 2, draft 1.0, 10%. Boom. Here's where I am. Here's where I expect to finish. Done. That kind of open, honest response is the kind of thing we're lacking with George. But this is what I like to see in creators. This is what drew me to read his books. If you're a creator and you want me to give your product a shot, this is how you do it. Respect, communication, openness, treat your fans well. And I'll go, You know why I read Shannon Brooks' book and I did a review on it? Because I'm subscribed to his channel. And why am I subscribed to his channel? Because he's funny. And he's informative. And I had some questions about publishing. And I sent him messages. This was back when I was on Twitter. I sent him messages on Twitter. He has 1-point-something million followers. He responded. He was like, hey, this is what I did. This is what I would suggest doing. And I'm like, wow, okay. I'm gonna read your book. It's simple. It's the little things. It's honesty, it's openness, it's communication with your fans. And that's what drew me to Sanderson, and I love his books. And I will listen to them repeatedly. I do audiobooks more than I do physical reading anymore just because of time constraints. And what I'll do is I'll listen to a book and then I'll go back and immediately I listen to it again, except now I pick it apart for story structure, for sentence composition, for character creation, and character study, so that I can learn from what he did and apply it to my own craft. But this is where respect gets you as a creator. So, something to keep in mind if you're going to get published or if you're going to create a movie or whatever you're going to do. If you're a creator and you're going to get and put yourself out there, keep this in mind. This kind of communication really gets people on your side, and it really gets people invested because you're not some foreign thing. Now, let's look by comparison George R. R. Martin talking about something he bought. I'm not even going to go into it. I don't care. Then he goes into this book that he edited and put out. Something about it being May, talking about his alma mater. He's talking, but he's not talking about what everybody's asking about. George, where's the book? He doesn't even mention it in any of these. He talks about House of the Dragon on HBO Max. You have to go down to Not-a-Blogging to get a reference to him being behind. Openness, communication, respect. That's what it takes to me. I think George is probably a very talented writer. I have never read any of his work because it doesn't interest me. And the way he communicates with his fans doesn't interest me. But I see his passionate fan base. And I see you guys in the comments section who are like so passionate about this, about A Song of Ice and Fire, that I have to respect that. I have to say, okay, obviously, he's good at his craft. That's not the question. I just wish he was more upfront with you guys. I wish he would just say one thing, one simple thing, and you guys would at least know where you stand. And I think that's what bothers me the most. And that's what gets me kind of not on his case. I'm not actively pestering him with videos about him not being upfront with his audience. This is just a compare and contrast situation. He happens to be a very good example of the opposite of what draws me to someone's work. You've got this passionate fan base. You got to communicate with them. I mean, I see all these comments, and I see all you guys in the videos, and I see other people making videos about it. I'm just like, I just want him to just tell you something. And I deeply hope that he finishes his books because you guys who are his fans deserve that. You've made him a multimillionaire. The dude bought a train line. Okay, he's got money. And why does he have money? He has money because of you. So just kind of a study in differences in what I like versus what I don't like. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on George. If you are a George R. R. Martin fan, let me know if what I'm saying in terms of him just communicating something very simple, how you'd feel about that. If that would make you at least feel a little better about where things are. And if you are a George R. R. Martin fan and you haven't tried Brandon Sanderson, I really suggest his work. He has been brought up a couple of times by George R. R. Martin fans as a possibility to finish The Song of Ice and Fire if George does not. He talked about that in a live stream. Somebody brought it up, and he doesn't seem that interested because they are two very, very different authors. And he has said he has a hard time writing consistently dark material because it always ends up optimistic whether he wants it to or not. So I wouldn't go betting on that, but you never know. He finished Wheel of Time, but he was a huge fan of Wheel of Time. It was more similar to his writing style, I think. But if you're a George R. R. Martin fan and you're looking for something to read in fantasy and you haven't tried Brandon Sanderson, I really recommend it. I would start with the Stormlight Archive. It's very, very good, and it's very much his modern ability to write. And then Mistborn, also very good, but it's his early work, so there is a difference. It's still very good quality. I'm just saying, when you read one and then you read the other, it's like you can see how far he's come as a writer. He has other books out there too, if you want to give him a shot. But that's my recommend of the week, I guess. I'll put it that way, of a creator. And the reason for that is his respect for the fans and his communication. And of course, the quality of his work. But the reason I was drawn to that was his respect for the fans and his communication. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Hit the bell so you'll be notified of new videos. And I will see you next time.